Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the June 17th regular Finance and Audit Committee meeting. I'd like to first recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples. Given the location of this and being respectful of discussions that are ongoing, I will recognize we're gathered on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation and the Sonawas peoples. Our clerk today will be Sheila Gurry. We also have councillors Hemmons and Eastmere attending electronically. Given that this is a different location than normal, forgive me if I don't handle the technology very well today. Today's Finance and Audit Committee meeting is being held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. If during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question on a matter that was considered by the committee today, please sign up on the sheet located on the table to my right. Please note that the Council Procedure Bylaw states questions will only be taken on staff reports or other business items. Given the nature of the audience today, which appears to be mostly staff, apart from a fairly regular observer representing his community association and a couple of delegations, I'm not going to bother read the warnings about good behavior, etc. Thank you very much. The first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items. We have none, Ms. Gurry. A motion for adoption of the agenda. Moved Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Motion for adoption of the minutes is circulated. Moved Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We do have presentations to start off. Item 5, 2027-2031 Financial Plan Development. Ms. Fulla, good morning. Welcome. We're in your hands.
Good morning. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Work is now underway on the 2027-2031 Financial Plan. Today, I'll walk you through the proposed timeline and give you a sense of our starting point for this budget cycle. At the end of the presentation, we will be looking to the committee for direction on expectations for the draft plan. In February, staff began updating the 10-year project plans. Then last month at the Finance and Audit Committee, we presented the project plan and received direction from the committee. Today, we're looking for direction on the budget as we move into the next phase, updating our business plans, developing the draft operating budgets, and preparing business cases ahead of budget deliberations this fall. Our goal is to have first 3 readings of the 2027 to 2031 financial plan completed by the end of December. Under this timeline, the provisional budget would be adopted in early January. From there, staff would continue updating it through April as new information comes in and as Council provides additional direction. Then in April, we would bring forward the proposed final budget for adoption before that May 15th deadline. The current financial plan puts the starting point for 2027 property tax increases at 7.8%, and of course this includes 1% for the General Asset Management Reserve. When we factor in the Senior Engineering Development Technician position that you approved on May 4th, the starting point increases to 7.9%. On a later slide, I'll highlight for you some of the key preliminary budget drivers. Projected rates in future years reflect the fact that the VICC debt is ending in 2026 and 2027, and the Fire Station number 4 debt is ending in 2027 as well. We have also estimated debt servicing costs for the Public Works Yard upgrade project, which you will notice we are now calling the Community Works Yard project to reflect the variety of services that will be provided to the community from this location. For the draft financial plan, we have estimates based on our projected borrowing costs for this project, but of course they will be updated once we complete our fall borrowing, and we will be updating the timing of the cash flow and the borrowing based as the project proceeds. The current projected user rate increases are 3.9% for sewer, 5% for water, and a 4.7% decrease for sanitation. For sewer, this includes 2% for the Asset Management Reserve, 0.9% for debt servicing tied to the Community Works project, and for water, we have 2% for the Asset Management Reserve and 0.7% for debt servicing. The anticipated decrease in sanitation is mainly due to lower anticipated refuse trucks fleet rates. Part of this relates to the change that we made several years ago. So as you will recall, we reduced the life cycle of the vehicles from 10 years to 8 years, and this shortened the time we had to collect the replacement funding required. All of those trucks from the original automation are now scheduled to be replaced, and so the new trucks we anticipate will have lower fleet rates. All of these rates, of course, will be reviewed once the draft budgets are developed. Based on the preliminary 10-year draft project plan for water, we do expect future adjustments to the projected water use rates. We anticipate we may require long-term boring to complete some of the major projects planned in water. Funding decisions for sewer DCC projects, such as external boring, will also impact sewer user rates. As I mentioned back in April, the city has continued to invest in public safety over the last several years. This includes 40 firefighters, 21 RCMP members, 22 community safety officers, and 21 police services positions to support police operations. We've also gone through periods of higher inflation over the past 5 years. Together, these have pushed or have contributed to an average property tax increase of 7% between 2022 and 2026. So if we look at the preliminary 6-figure budget drivers that bring us to the 7.8%, on the expenditure side, we have the annual 1% increase to property taxes for the General Asset Management Reserve. This was approved as part of the recommendations from our 20-year investment plan update back in 2023, and this helps address the city's infrastructure funding gap. We have the DCC Waivers and Reduction Program. In 2026, you funded this from surplus. In 2027, it is scheduled to be funded from general revenue. The $250,000 estimate is based on 50 units at the current DCC rates, since we do have 1 year of in-stream protection once you adopt that bylaw in January. Debt servicing costs from general revenue actually decrease in 2027. This is reflecting that some of the VICC debt will be paying out in 2026, and this does factor in the new boring for the community works yard. However, as I mentioned, we will be updating those estimates for the community works yard once we do the actual boring in the fall, and we'll also, as I said, update projections for the future boring as part of developing the financial plan. We have IT software and subscriptions. We have increases for software licenses for both new technology as well as renewal of existing technology. In Nanaimo Fire Rescue, our planned turnout gear replacement schedule includes an increased number of replacements in 2027. Base funding for projects will increase 5% as per the 20-year investment plan, and this helps address growth in assets as well as inflation. Looking at the RCMP contract, this budget driver reflects a few key items. First, there's the full year impact of the 4 members that we're adding this year that are budgeted to start later in the year. We have 4 new members starting in April of 2027, and that'll be the last 4 of the 12 members you're adding over 3 years. And finally, in 2027, we budgeted the contract at 95%. And of course, in 2026, we have budgeted at 92%. And we will be reviewing that percentage as part of the financial plan development. And finally, on the expenditure side, we have wages and benefits. We've grouped this into 2 lines. First, we have the contingency for vacancies. So in 2026, we've included a negative $1 million contingency for vacancies in the general fund as we recruit for positions. And the second piece is wages and benefit changes. So this includes a provision for the IAF contract that expires at the end of the year. It reflects the new QP contract that was agreed to this spring. We also see the ongoing pay progression of those 40 firefighters that we added. So their wages go up every year as they gain experience. And we have the full year impact of the 4 CSOs that we added in April of this year. And finally, we've included an estimate for benefits. Now, this is just a preliminary estimate, and those will continue to be updated as new rates come in to staff. On the revenue side, we are budgeting for an increase in aquatics revenue. So in 2026, we budgeted for lower revenue because, as you know, we're having that extended shutdown this year to accommodate the dehumidification improvement project, as well as the installation of the new play feature. In 2027, we anticipate we're going to return to a normal shutdown schedule. And of course, this revenue figure is shown net of the transfer to the facility development reserve. We have investment income is projected to decline. However, staff will be reviewing this number and will look at current interest rates as well as what forecasts are for 2027. And this number will be updated for the draft budget. And then, of course, we have other changes. So these are all those less than six-figure drivers, and they total an increase of $493,000. Finally, we have the projected impact of growth less supplements at 1.2 million. So we always use 1.2 million as our preliminary number for growth, and we'll adjust that to actual growth when we get that next spring. And the supplements, that adjustment will come in as we receive them. So the net changes are an increase of 13.6 million or a 7.8% property tax increase. Now, there is a few items that you need to consider. First is the RCMP contract. As I mentioned, we currently have it budgeted at 95% for 2027, but we will look at current vacancy rates and determine what is a good level to budget that at. And we'll probably have some decision points for you as well as part of budget deliberations to see what percentage you would like to budget that at. We also received an updated multi-year financial plan from E-Division, and they're showing lower costs for their 2027-2028 fiscal year. So that will actually reduce the cost of the RCMP contract for the city, and that will be reflected in the draft budget. Second, the current financial plan, as I mentioned, does not have a negative wage contingency for the general fund. So we will be talking with HR and looking across the city to see how our vacancies are, what recruitment timelines are like, and see if we can do a negative contingency again in 2027. And finally, the IFF contract expires at the end of the year, as I mentioned. So we will be reviewing the percentage that we have allocated in the current 2026-2031 financial plan to see if it needs any adjustments in the new financial plan, and that could be up or down. So those will be discussions that we will be having with Human Resources.
Councillor Perino has a question.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through you to Ms. Fuller. And I just before we go on to the next, I thought it might be a quick time. When you talked about it in the revenue, and let me just find it. Okay, when you talked about the estimated growth and you said that on a year-to-year basis, you generally use the 1.2 million. Has that been fairly accurate given what you know? Back on your slide number 10. Actually, it's there. It's up there. So I just wondered if, because you said that it's a number that you regularly use. Has it been accurate?
Through the chair to Councillor Perino. So last year, when we netted out supplements, we were at 1.27. So it is fairly, there was 1 year, several years back where we had very good growth numbers, but that was outside the trend. The 1.2 is a bit on the conservative side, which we do want to be because we don't want to come back at final budget and increase property taxes because we overestimated growth. So 1.2 is
conservative enough.
We usually come in a little bit higher than that.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Councillor Thorpe has a question too.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you, if I may, before we move on to debt, one of my favorite subjects. Thanks, Ms. Fulla. I always appreciate your presentations. You present very clearly and make it relatively easy to understand. Am I correct when I say, just for people watching or listening, that as a starting point, our city's operating budget is 227 million, something like that? Sorry to put you on the spot.
I have my other notes over there. But Laura might know off the top.
You can get back to me.
I can get back to
okay.
Get back to my other seat.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I just want to emphasize again for our viewers that when we're talking about next year's budget and a potential tax increase of 7.8 to maybe 8, you've indicated a possibility of being able to reduce that a little bit through the RCMP contract. There might be other things that change, of course, one way or the other. But I note in one of your slides that the 3 main budget drivers by far are asset management, the RCMP contract, and employee wages. Am I correct there?
You are correct.
And those are three areas that really we have relatively little control over, and they're all very, very necessary. So, yeah, I just point that out. Thank you very much. And you can get back to me on the other.
Thank you.
So at the end of the year, the city had outstanding debt of 29.4 million. This includes Fire Station number 4 and the VICC, which are funded through property taxes. We have Fire Station number 1, which is funded through the General Asset Management Reserve. And from user fees, we fund sanitation debt as well as the debt for the water treatment plant. In addition, we have 3 internal borrowings tied to sewer DCC projects. And right now that debt servicing is being covered by sewer operations. This reflects that the sewer DCC reserve does not currently have sufficient funding to both repay debt as well as deliver DCC projects. The current financial plan includes 2 borrowings in 2026. We have the remaining internal borrowing for the completion of the DCC SS 44 Hammond Bay at Turner Road project. As well, we have the first phase of the borrowing for the Community Works Yard project. Looking ahead to 2027 to 2030, this includes the final phases of borrowing for the Community Works project. It also includes 1 external borrowing to support upgrades at the Vancouver Island Conference Centre. This work would include roof renewal, window replacement, and HVAC upgrades. The total projected borrowing for this initiative is 15.7 million over 4 years, and of that, 11.2 million falls within our current 5-year financial plan. And this slide here just shows the projected outstanding debt for the 5 years in the current financial plan, as well as the upcoming year based on our current financial plan and 10-year project plan. The city's borrowing capacity is governed by the province through our liability servicing limit, which is set at 25% of our controllable and sustainable revenues. At December 31st, our limit was 61.7 million for annual principal and interest payments, and we were at 12.2% of that limit. Based on the liability servicing limit certificate we submitted for the Community Works Yard project earlier this year, we are now projected to be at 19.1% using our 2024 revenue figures. This still keeps us well within the allowable threshold. This limit will also be updated in the fall, so staff has recently submitted our financial information for 2025 to the province, and once that is approved, we would update this calculation based on our 2025 sustainable and controllable revenues.
And if I may interrupt, as I do every year about this time, to remind the public, if they're paying attention, that 25% limit includes both principal and interest on debt. Correct. And what that means is, in simple terms, that we could borrow a great deal more, but haven't, and that this reflects a very conservative fiscal management approach for a very long time, over many, many years in this city. There are some communities in this province that are approaching spending 25% of their income on debt servicing. In Nanaimo, we are at, 12% of 25%, essentially. I'm not really exaggerating when I say that, am I?
Our position, through the chair, our position, yes, we don't have a lot of debt for the municipality at this time.
Thank you very much. Please carry on.
In developing the draft budget, staff will look to supporting the integrated action plan, council strategic framework, and maintaining current levels of service. The budget will target a 7.9% increase as per our current approved financial plan. At the direction of the committee, we will include a decision point in the fall budget deliberations regarding an operating agreement for the Vancouver Island Military Museum for your consideration. At this time, we'd like to turn the discussion over to the committee for any direction you wish to provide staff or any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. I can't, Councillor Prino.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just want to make the statement that as we look at that 2027 property tax increase target, we are not at 7.9. We're simply, that's where we're sitting at the moment. that does not necessarily mean that that would be the end case. Is that correct? I just want to make sure that the public understands that because it's huge and we haven't even started the year yet. But so many variables can change. So it's not something that we need to necessarily put a stamp on at this point.
Through the chair to Council Perino, yes, you are correct. Because the city uses modified zero-based budgeting, when we start the financial plan this year, everything goes back to zero for staff's operating budgets. The only thing that is set is wages because we have permanent staff and part-time staff that have contracts with the city, and we have QP and IAFF agreements. Everything else is staff have to build their budget from the ground up based on their work plans for 2027. So based on what they were anticipating when they developed the 2026 budget, that's what 2027 shows. But it will definitely change from what you see. We've, as I mentioned, we had some changes to the RCMP contract that we know already. There'll be some updates for debt once we know actual debt servicing costs. We'll look at that negative wage contingency, and then every department's going to go back and look at their work plans, look at their costs, and see what is required for them to maintain current service levels.
Okay, so the goal is certainly to bring it down as much as possible over the coming months. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I just want to recognize that Councillors Manley and Armstrong joined us earlier as well and appear on the screen. Are there any further questions for Ms. Fulla? No motions required on this morning. Ms. Fulla, thank you very much. Starting the prep for next year. Much appreciate this. The next item are delegations, and we have delegations from Jackie Deering. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Jackie Deering? Detering. Yes, I thought that's what I said. And Kelly Simpatico, remarked car crosswalks at CU Wintz School. Good morning and welcome. You'll have 5 minutes, maybe more, because I'm not sure how to operate the timer up here. You just introduce yourselves for the record. And thank you for coming this morning.
Good morning. Yes, for the record, I'm Jackie Deering, and I'm here with.
I'm Kelly Simpatico.
Special thanks to Natalie and Bryce for setting us up with some tech. You guys have made it very easy this morning. So we're here to discuss the request for prioritization of a crosswalk at CU Wintz School. And I'm hopeful that this is the most important and easiest decision you have to make all week. So let's get started. So we're speaking on behalf, not just the two of us, but the Parent Advisory Council at the school, which represents 325 students and their families. We have an active petition with more than 500 community members signing. And we got responses from the 19 educators at the school who've reported safety concerns. Can I just get a quick show of hands in the room if you're familiar with CU Wintz School? Okay, thank you. I'm going to give you some quick background. It is in the Diver Lake neighborhood, established in 1996, so 30 years in September. And the original name is Koltai. So that's there. And we are on track for reaching maximum capacity in next September. So Sun Valley Drive and Mountain Vista Drive are the roads immediately bordering the school. And I need you to imagine curbside parking on both sides of these roads at drop-off and pickup times. We've got hundreds of students that have to navigate complex traffic environments without the benefit of marked crosswalk infrastructure every day, twice a day. This is an example of a crosswalk at Ridge. I forget the name of the school. Randerson Ridge. Randerson Ridge has 2 marked crosswalks in front of it. This is an example. Marked crosswalks give the drivers clear indication, thank you, of the crossing point, brings structure to pedestrian movement, improves visibility with nearly 50 feet of protected sightline space created by law, and establishes enforceable legal protections with drivers legally responsible to yielding to pedestrians. How does this compare to other schools in the city? Almost every school has crosswalks, multiple crosswalks. The absence of marked crossings at CUNs reflects an inconsistent application of basic safety measures. This is a family crossing at our school, Mountain Vista Drive, no crosswalks. The lack of marked crosswalks puts students and their families at a predictable and unnecessary risk. And this leads us to the question, why don't we have them in the first place at CUNs? And for that, I think you have to go back in time. So in 1996, when the school first opened, both of those roads, Sun Valley Drive and Mountain Vista Drive, started out as quiet cul-de-sacs, and now they're carrying through traffic, increased traffic volumes, and there's been dramatic growth in the immediate surroundings. So we've added a lot of residential units. Case in point, just up the road now, Mountain Vista Corridor has apartment buildings being built, over 150 units. Ironically, there are crosswalks here. No one lives here yet. The stakeholder meetings and active school travel participation cannot replace the need for direct action when a clear pedestrian safety gap already exists.
So as a parent, and I also live on Mountain Vista, I know I just have a couple of seconds here, but if you can picture cars, kids, it's sort of just like mayhem. Nobody knows where to cross. There's nowhere to cross. Parents are holding their kids' hands and darting out, trying to figure out the best way to cross. Both roads do go out to Boxwood and then to the Parkway. So it is quite busy, and there's just a lot of confusion and safety concerns every day, twice a day.
Yeah, no, you've got another minute.
Okay.
I did a 4-minute timer. So this request supports broad and united community. There's not much controversy here. And we wanted to close by sharing a few comments from the families who navigate these roads every day. So please.
Okay, here we go. So there have been a number of incidents where children are crossing and the cars are speeding by with limited visibility and almost hit them. These are comments that were shared by some of the parents. Kids often run between parked vehicles onto the street without looking. Lots of cars so that drivers cannot see as kids cross the road, especially around the corners and the cul-de-sacs. I've seen kids run out in front of cars. Parents are walking across the road with children on unmarked crosswalks. Changes need to be made before somebody gets hurt. So that's just some of the comments that people have made. Yeah.
So the issue before council is not whether pedestrian safety standards are important, it's whether we'll apply them consistently in the city. We've put up a proposed motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you, if I may, I'll go first. And full disclosure, my 2 grandchildren both go to CUNT school, and I have occasion to pick them up or drop them off occasionally. So I am well aware of the area and the school and the challenges there. And thank you, ladies, for coming and presenting and a very compelling presentation and great evidence for us. That said, we have been in touch with each other on this issue, and I have indicated to you to not expect a quick answer today because the city follows a process for determining priorities of improvements to road issues, and I'm sure staff will have an opportunity later to answer to that. But you do reference consultation with RCMP and School District 68 and I think ICBC. Have you had direct connection with those organizations regarding this?
No, just informally.
Okay. Our staff does meet regularly with them and they develop a priorities list. You mentioned several other schools, and I can tell you that there are other schools that are also asking for traffic improvements. So I'm not diminishing the validity of your request. I'm just pointing out that we have to put things in a queue and try to deal with them as quickly as we can, but in a priority method. So again, I'll leave it at that, and staff, I'm sure, will have further details later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. And a question through to the delegation. Thank you. Great delegation. And you're right, it is an easy decision. Personally, I feel very strongly, and my daughter's a teacher, so not at this particular school, but yeah, we talk about these things a lot. I'm just wanting to know from you what you would like to see at those intersections.
A marked crosswalk.
Okay.
It's simple. It doesn't have to be flashing lights. It's the protection that marked crosswalk provides.
Gotcha.
It's
Okay,
legal.
good, thank you. And if I may, when the delegation is done, I'd like a question of staff if possible.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of council? I can't see the screen, so
You're working
Nobody's
for us.
asked.
I'm not seeing them with their hands up. No.
thank you very much. All right. Thank you, both of you, for coming today.
Thanks very much.
And Councillor Perino, question for staff? You may wish to stay and listen for questions to staff on this issue.
Thank you so much. I think Mr. Rose, possibly. I'm just wondering what the process is normally in a case like this, because we do know that crosswalks around schools, of course, are high on the priority list. I'm just wondering what's the next process for us to consider this?
Through the chair. So this is actually an area where we've had a lot of conversations internally, and it's actually a little bit of a confluence of things because we also have a number of concerns raised through our traffic calming stream as well for
Yes.
Mountain Vista explicitly. And so staff are actually planning to present some options to council in the fall regarding the traffic calming options as well as the neighborhood school zone speed limit reductions that have been discussed.
Okay.
And so at that time, we plan to present some options that'll be in line with what the delegation's requesting.
Okay.
So
That's great. And just a second question, if I may, Your Worship. So assuming this does come forward and any other crosswalk areas around schools, how long does it take to actually get them built?
So I think I want to maybe clarify sort of the differentiation between simply marking a crosswalk and
Yeah.
creating a new crossing
Raised or,
opportunity.
yeah.
Unfortunately, we really don't see what I would regard as protection in regards to just marking a crosswalk.
Yes.
In fact, in the last 6 months, we've seen 3 different MVAs involving pedestrians at crosswalks, even with beacons on them. And so there's a really concerning trend of driver pedestrian communication. And I don't know what the core situation is, but one of the things we're really focusing on where we can is creating situations where the speeds are reduced so that when a crossing is taking place, if there is something that doesn't go right, at the very least, the speeds are diminished, and so the consequences would also be minimized. And so, so when we look at improving crossings, we do have a process, and we have a lot of tools at our disposal to use. And as referenced, we do consult with school district and ICBC and the RCMP to get their input on some of the what might be the best remedial action at various locations. So. Okay. It is a very fulsome process we go through. It does take time, but you know, in the behaviors we've seen of late at simply marked crosswalks, it's just too concerning to not consider all the options.
I'm happy to hear that. Thank you very much. I look forward to the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Perino. A general sort of question. Are there bike lanes of any substantive amount in that area? And the reason, you know, where I'm going with this, it's Pleasant Valley School. Pleasant Valley School, with the improvements to Metro Drive, saw such an increase in bicycles and kids walking to school that the District Parent Advisory Council asked the city to contribute to the acquisition of more racks for bikes because the school was inundated and those parents weren't driving their kids there and picking them up, which creates 2 major traffic tie-ups during the day.
So Sewent is actually in a fairly compartmentalized neighborhood, so it's generally local roads. To the east, there are some strong connections into the new Midtown corridor, which tie into the Parkway Trails and to Bettman Complex. To the west, there's not a great deal of cycling infrastructure. There was an active school travel plan prepared for, at the time, Koltai, I believe it was in 2008. And there was a lot of discussions about walking routes, et cetera. And so if we can come back in the future and update that and get a better idea of where students are coming from and going to, I think that becomes a pathway to inform capital improvements to provide walking, biking infrastructure at a larger scale.
Thank you. I want to assure the delegation the concern is not so much the expenditure of money, but what will actually be effective. Crosswalks in and of themselves, I think we've heard, and the evidence is fairly clear. It may give a level of comfort, but it doesn't guarantee a level of safety. If there's no further questions,
Councillor
Councillor Hemmons, yes.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks to the delegation for bringing this forward and to staff's response. I'm curious, the reality is that we could probably get delegations similar to this from a lot of different schools in Nanaimo. There is a process. It does take time. So my question for staff is for parents who have, come today and told us about these challenges, are there any tactical things that they could do visually to slow traffic around the school as we await the planning and the prioritization of crosswalks? And I'll use Bayview as an example. And we did do some improvements, pedestrian improvements around Bayview, but it's been absolutely remarkable just having bollards when people have a visual cue. And I understand that crosswalks accidents still happen, but the visual cue of having something there as children are on the street is actually really valuable. So yeah, just a question to staff as we go through our processes to figure out where we want to place these improvements. Is there anything parents can do at the school level to support the safety measures that they're asking for?
Absolutely. There's actually a document that we've produced and posted online for schools and parent groups that want to kind of get a leg up on getting into an active school travel plan. And so there's sort of a toolkit or a guide which identifies things. I'm not 100% clear on how much of sort of the tactical urbanism components that might be outlined in it, but there's definitely some programmatic walking school bus, walking or riding school bus, things like that. That can be adopted and put into play. I think if there's some low-hanging fruit things that could be supported between the school district and the city, I think that we'd be open to having those conversations. I think there's sort of a balance point between creativity and reasonableness in the road environment, but as I say, there's a toolkit that can be gone through and sort of get some ideas from.
Thank you, Councillor Hemmons. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. First off, thank you so much to the parents for this presentation. It's really helpful to know what people are experiencing, and I really appreciate this direct advocacy to council to keep it in the front of our mind. And it's good to hear that there is a staff report coming back in the fall. Just first question is what's the general timing of that? Is that September, October, or more for November? Just so I have a sense of if it's something that our council is going to have a chance to deal with or not.
Through the chair, I believe the report is on a September date, possibly the 12th, but don't quote me on that. So, but early fall.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, and it's interesting to hear that it's part of potentially a more broad conversation about lowering speed limits in these areas. And I know that our council did have a chance to talk about that, and unfortunately we didn't go ahead with that push, but maybe that's something that we revisit more broadly, because I am really concerned about the speeds that people are traveling, and I'm seeing so many cars running red lights, and it's been scary out there, and I don't want to put that on pedestrians. You talked about pedestrian and car communication. It's drivers are just simply driving too fast. And of course we're going to have conflicts at crosswalks because that's where people are designated to cross the road. But yeah, this is an initiative that I really support. And I'm glad Councillor Hemmons brought up the point around the bollards, because just more visual cues on the road and elements that cause drivers to pay more attention and to slow down, I think are going to be really important in this area. So I'll look forward to this coming back, and would support certainly the measures that have been requested by the parents. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Not seeing any further questions. Thank you very much. On to item 7, reports. The 2025 Statement of Financial Information.
Through the chair, if I could just have a moment
Yes,
to
full up.
answer.
Oh, yes, please.
To answer Councillor Thorpe's question before we move on from the budget. So for 2026, our operating expenditure budget is 228.6 million. And based on the current financial plan, the 2027 operating expenditure budget is 237.9 million. And our project plan this year is 157.9 million and currently 99.9 million for 2027 in the current financial plan.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you. All right. Again, the 2025 Statement of Financial Information. Ms. Mercer, please. Good morning.
Thank you, Your Worship. Each year, the city is required to prepare the Statement of Financial Information, or the SOFI report, by June 30th of the following year per legislation. The SOFI report is mainly made up of 2 areas, which is the schedule of remuneration and expenses. So that lists all council wages and expenses, as well as a listing of all staff earning over $75,000 and their corresponding expenses. It also includes the schedule of goods and services, and that's a listing of all the vendors who are paid over $25,000 during the year. And those are the 2 main areas. And as I've said in the past, these threshold levels have not changed in over 20 years. The last change was in 2002. So the number of employees and vendors will continue to grow until those thresholds are updated. We're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to see if there's any questions. Can't see the screen. No. Councillor Perino is making the motion. Councillor Thorpe is seconding. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. We're on to 7B, 2026 other grants. Ms. Mercer, again, please.
Thank you. So the city has received 7 grant applications totaling $21,530 in requests. All applicants are listed in the report and attachments. So the budget for 2026 is $7,000, and currently there is $4,870 remaining to be spent. As the requests far exceeded the available funding, staff are recommending that the budget be allocated between the top 2 ranked applications, and those are the Nanaimo Disability Center at $2,834 and Special Olympics Nanaimo at $2,036. So staff are here to answer any questions you have on these 2 applications.
Thank you very much. Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I wondered if you could just explain, Ms. Mercer, just a little bit more why certain groups would be turned down. What's the criteria for that? Just so the public has an understanding about why they would be turned down. You had a few on the list.
Go ahead, Wendy.
Through the chair to Councillor Perino.
Yes.
So we do have some parameters around the other grants program. One, they do need to be a nonprofit or a registered charity. So one of the applications did not meet that criteria. It cannot fund ongoing operating expenses. One of the applications that we did receive, they received funding in the prior year for a very similar project, like some of the work overlapped, so they had already received funding, so that lowered their score. We also look at their financials, their stability. Did they have other funding that they tried to raise to help pay for the project? So we had one applicant that they were looking for all the funding from the city. They weren't contributing funding towards what they were asking for funding for, so that ranked them lower. Okay. It's very difficult because we have a very small pool of money and many worthy groups asking for the money. So we do score them, and it does make sense, as Ms. Mercer said, to just split it between 2 groups. Otherwise, if we gave it to everybody that was potentially eligible, the money wouldn't be enough for them to do anything.
I appreciate hearing that. Thank you so much. And if I just could ask one more question. You do review with the groups during the year. Once the money's given, you review to make sure that the money was spent as it was. Great. Just want, so accountability, it's just important for the public to know that. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any on the screen got a question? Not seeing any. Anyone care to make the recommended motion? Moved Councillor Thorpe, seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? And any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. I'm glad the council this morning, as opposed to some other meetings, chose with the smallest amount of money involved not to debate it all morning. Next is item C, update council on the proposed Hammond Bay Road Brickyard safety improvements. Mr. Rosen, good morning.
Morning, Your Worship, Council. So on February 2nd, Council approved funding for a new roundabout at Brickyard on Hammond Bay Road as part of the active construction work that's currently going on. Unfortunately, the contractor pricing for that work is substantially higher than was expected, and it's no longer considered good value. So this information report in front of you is to advise Council that the roundabout is not proceeding at this time and that the funds will be returned to Council's AT unallocated fund. So happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Questions for Mr. Rosen? Councillor Perino?
Sorry, I've been busy this morning. So this was one of those unpopular projects. I certainly had several people contact me saying, why are you doing this roundabout? And so we're going to back away from it, which is fine. However, the teacher in my family said to me, it's a good project, even though it's unpopular, it's a good project. Are we feeling that it's safe enough without the roundabout, given what you are planning? That's my first question.
So in an ideal world, we would have a roundabout there. We still believe the roundabout is a good piece of infrastructure.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the infrastructure costs a certain amount, and at this point, we don't believe enough value is there, given what it costs.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate hearing that. And so for those people who didn't like it, they're going to be pleased that this project is now gone. The other question is so the money goes back into the fund, so we might be able to use that for, say, other pedestrian safety measures. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. And there will be some other opportunities that we'll be bringing forward to Council in the near future for that.
Great, great. Well, we certainly heard one this morning, so thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Manley, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yeah, just Councillor Perino asked one of my questions, and the money that's coming back into the Active Transportation Fund, $350,000. The crosswalk that was proposed for the elementary school earlier on, those run about $100,000 for those raised crosswalks with the lights and everything else. Is that correct?
$100,000 seems a little on the high side, but they certainly are not inexpensive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. So this will these funds be part of the report that we're going to see in September then? For a decision?
It could be these funds plus some traffic calming funds as well. So this will be a part of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't wish to leave Councillor Perino out there feeling alone when it comes to the subject of roundabouts. I'm a huge fan, remain a huge fan. They work in other countries and they work very well. I'm somewhat disappointed the price rose so dramatically, but it's the sensible position to take, and I appreciate staff bringing it back for the discussion this morning. All right, no motion required on that. We're on to D, the Mini Peaks Legacy Project. Now, if you're just looking at the title of this, I'm sure the public will be intrigued this morning. Ms. Mercer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the city has an opportunity to submit an expression of interest to the Mini Peaks Legacy Project that invests in community sport across BC. So this would fully fund a 60 by 120-foot mini pitch at Bevan Park. It would also include technical support, programming support for grassroots soccer curriculum, coach training, program delivery from the Vancouver Whitecaps Football Club, and some grand opening and marketing costs. So those funds, 100% of those costs would be funded, and an additional site preparation cost would be borne by the city. So the expression of interest deadline is open until all the pitches have been allocated. And selected applicants may be required to submit full application. So we are looking to update the budget to include $213,600 for site preparation. And the financial plan would be further updated to include the cost and associated grant if we were successful. So staff are here looking for council's approval to submit the EOI and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mercer. Councillor Thorpe, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Ms. Mercer. Yeah, I'm certainly in favor of submitting any request. Two things, though. I'm wondering if Nanaimo United Football Club has been asked for their opinion on this as they oversee youth soccer in town. So I don't know if there's an answer available on that.
We'll pass it over to Ms. Bhopal Singh as she has some information on that.
Ms. Bhopal Singh, please.
Through your worship to Councillor Thorpe, the answer is yes. We work closely with them and this is a project that they are in support of.
Oh, that's good to hear. Thank you very much. I should have anticipated that you would be in touch with them. And I guess my only other comment, Your Worship, is I hope the Vancouver Whitecaps are still in Vancouver to help support this. Thank you.
On the optimistic note, very kind, Councillor Thorpe. Any further questions? Councillor Hemmons, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not a question, just a comment for a mum who's very involved in the soccer community here. We were just in a tournament in Surrey, and I get a lot of questions about why don't we have more turf fields and why don't we have an undercover soccer space for practice? And these end zone kind of warm-up spaces are one of the things on the list that a lot of parents in the community are very interested in. So I just want to share that very recent request. If it's appropriate, I'd like to move the motion, Your Worship.
I think that's quite appropriate. Seconded. Councillor Thorpe. Discussion on this, council? Not seeing any other hands raised. Councillor Perino?
Just to say, I certainly agree with Councillor Hemmons. This is, I'm a grandmother of a soccer player, so I just feel this is so important. And, you know, anytime we can make sure that kids have an opportunity to get involved in sporting activities, all the better.
Keep him busy. The devil finds mischief for idle hands and feet. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And any opposed? Not seeing any. Motion carries. Thank you very much. I'm not aware of any other business. I doubt very much we have anything for question period, Ms. Gurry. And a motion to adjourn would be appropriate. Moved Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. I always wanted to do this at the end of a meeting.
What do you